Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. So, just like last year for Christmas, I started with some new tech for myself. Well, same again this year. One of my nephews gave me a spot. Well, I guess you could call it spotlight. It's a clip light to put on your laptop. Now, I'm still experimenting. So, let me know if the lighting is off, if or if it looks good, looks better than it did before. Because like I said, I'm still experimenting on where to put this light so I don't end up going blind. So anyway, I have 3 articles for you today, all from the Advocate. One is an update on the professor, well, I shouldn't call him a professor, the student teacher who gave that airhead a 0 because she dared to not do the assignment. Then after that, I'm going to tell you about CECOT. And then after that, Burkina Faso. So, let's start with the update on the Oklahoma University story. Instructor who gave University of Oklahoma student a 0 on anti-trans paper removed from teaching. Right, because it's the teacher's fault for her not knowing how to put a paper together. All right, moving right along. The University of Oklahoma graduate assistant who gave a student a failing grade on an anti-transgender paper will no longer be teaching at the university, officials said Monday. To be honest, if I was that graduate student, I would be seriously looking for positions at other universities. I realize that this is a graduate student, so obviously it wouldn't be a full teaching position, but I would take my studies elsewhere because I'm sorry, what? Anyway, how did I get out of the middle? Oh no. There we are. All right. Graduate teaching assistant Mel Kurth, who is trans, was placed on administrative leave a few weeks ago after giving student Samantha Fulnecki a 0 on her psychology paper. The paper described transgender people as demonic and asserted that gender roles are biblically ordained. Okay, and if she could, expand on those thoughts, they probably wouldn't have given her a 0. But the fact that she just, made one statement and then moved on was probably the problem. Fulnecki claimed the grade was retaliation for religious views. Right, because Christians are just poor, persecuted babies. They never amount to anything in life because because the mean academics are always pushing them down. Yeah, exactly. That's why there are so few Christians in high office, in business, in other walks of life, because they couldn't possibly get anywhere in life. Right, that's how reality works. But Kurth said the 0 was based on academic criteria. Kurth wrote that the essay does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at times offensive. Exactly. to be honest, even if she were to cite the Bible, if she could give some sort of backing, she doesn't even do that. People said that she cites the Bible. No, she doesn't actually cite the Bible. She claims that the Bible says certain things, but she doesn't back it up. She doesn't even claim that this Bible verse backs up her claim. So even if she brought the Bible in, she didn't actually cite where in the Bible any of this happens. Still wouldn't be scientific, still wouldn't be empirical, but at least she would have shown that she actually knows the Bible. Because as it stands now, she doesn't even show she knows the Bible, let alone knows the article to which she's responding to. So I can't remember where she contradicts herself. But yeah, she heavily uses her personal ideology. She doesn't even cite. She gave like 2 sentences where she talks about the actual article, the actual study she's supposed to be responding to. So I'm pretty sure that there are competing studies out there who, claim to prove that the Bible is correct. I mean, they might be bullshit studies, but I'm sure there's something. She doesn't even do that. She doesn't do anything correctly. And is at times offensive. Yes, I'm pretty sure that a trans person would find being called demonic, especially if you actually believe in that sort of thing, would find it offensive. Obviously, they don't want to be called demonic. Anyway, Kurth also noted that portraying a marginalized group as demonic is highly offensive. Yep. And urged the student to use empirical sources rather than doctrinal statements when critiquing course material. And she didn't even use doctrinal statements. What doctrine did she cite? She didn't. She just claims that her interpretation of doctrine, but she didn't actually cite anything. We don't know what part of the Bible she's getting her bullshit from. No, we don't know anything. All right. And yes, if you are in a science class, you should use empirical sources. Like I said from the very beginning, pretend that you believe this stuff. She's freaking pre-med. I just do not understand how she plans on getting far in a field that requires science if she refuses to accept science. I mean, what kind of a doctor would she be, even if she somehow managed to fake her way through it? If her understanding of literally everything comes from the Bible. I just do not understand how she could be a medical professional and do that. Because there is a lot about medicine that's not in the Bible. All right, where was I? The university posted a statement to social media Monday saying that the graduate assistant was arbitrary in the grading of this specific paper. Oh, really? And will no longer have instructional duties. It did not name either Kurth or Fuldecki, but their names have been disclosed elsewhere. Okay, what about the other professor who agreed with his assessment that she should get a 0? This is not the only instructor who graded the paper. He sent it to another instructor, I assume a full-fledged instructor as opposed to a graduate instructor. And they gave the same assessment. All right. The statement said the university had investigated the student's claim of religious discrimination but would not release the findings. Of course not, because their findings obviously are contrary to the decisions that they're making right now. The university had already decided on her appeal of her grade and removed the paper from her total point value for her class. So there was no academic harm to her, the statement noted. Actually, there is academic harm. Because what happens, this graduate student has been removed from their teaching job. Okay, like I said, there was another instructor who agreed with this assessment. So what happens the next time she has to do a paper that she has to cite academic sources on because, well, she's in a freaking psychology class? Or what happens in other science classes? Is she going to be able to coast because, oh no, all the instructors are going to be afraid to give her a 0? Because the fact that she even mentioned her religious beliefs should trump any other academic vigor? What the heck? Go to freaking seminary then. The University of Oklahoma believes strongly in both its faculty's rights to teach with academic freedom and integrity and its students' right to receive an education that is free from a lecturer's impermissible evaluative standards, the statement continued. Wait, impermissible evaluative standards? You mean evaluating it on its merits? Evaluating it on the criteria for the paper, for the class? Seriously, what impermissible standards? We are committed to teaching students how to think, not what to think. She didn't even do that well. Even if this paper was purely allowed on her personal belief, she didn't explain her personal belief very well. Cite the Bible. Cite where in the Bible it says that you believe this or you believe that. She kind of sort of, mentioned ancient Hebrew term, which doesn't mean what she thinks it does, but, she came close. But she didn't say where in the Bible it was mentioned. I think she probably mentioned the Old Testament. Maybe she mentioned the book, but she didn't mention the specific passage. So, no, she's not even succeeding on the how to think part. She's not even doing that well. The school's chapter of the American Association of University Professors thought little of the university's statement. Essentially, nothing is new here, a spokesperson for the chapter said in a statement to TV station KFOR. OU claims without providing any supporting or specific reasons why Mel Kurth was removed. They have claimed in the past in press releases that this was due to supposed and disturbing claims of religious discrimination that clash with academic freedom. Is it now? Instead, they hide behind vague statements and essentially assertion of trust us. And another point, they need to show us and not tell us. And once again, OU is making an employment decision public, which is inflaming the situation. I mean, this is wonderful PR for Oklahoma. I mean, wouldn't you want to go to a university that basically does the same thing that this chick got a 0 on her paper for by not properly showing their work? Oh yeah, this is a thing that happened. That's why we had to fire this person. But we're not going to tell you what that is. Okay. What? How is this at all helpful? You are just basically screaming, we are not a serious academic institution. Who the hell would want to go to Oklahoma for serious academics if this is the way you're going to treat people and treat academia? That as long as you don't come close to criticizing anyone for having a religious belief, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with the class, well, then if you're going to do that, well, obviously we're going to kick you to the curb. I mean, what? You're not giving yourselves any help here. Not only are you looking bad in this particular instance, you are screaming, we are not a serious academic institution. If you want to have a serious education, go elsewhere. If you want to flout your religion and you don't care if it is in any ways empirical, or if you just want to spout your religious beliefs without being pushed back on, come here, because we're just a glorified religious university. Granted, even religious, theological universities wouldn't let this shit pass, but that seems to be the vibe they're going for. The university has placed a second instructor on leave after, according to school officials, she told students they would be excused from class to attend a protest in favor of Kurth. Student newspaper OU Nightly identified Kelly Alvarez as the instructor for the course, which is English composition. Now, is there a problem with that? I don't think so. Now, if she were to say, but if you were to go to this other protest in favor of this airhead who can't handle getting a 0 because she doesn't want to do the work but wants to get credit. Now, if she said that, then I could see a problem. But just saying you're not going to get in trouble, that it's an excused absence just for attending a protest, I don't see the problem. Actually, that's good civics. Khalid Magana, president of the University of Oklahoma's Turning Point USA chapter, of course it is, asked whether counter-protesters would also receive excused absences. Alvarez replied that a counter-protest must be organized. None was, but several conservative students made their views known at the pro-Kurth demonstration. Magana filed a complaint against Alvarez with the university. Turning Point USA is a right-wing student organization founded by the late Charlie Kirk. Okay. So basically what I said was correct. She would have allowed it if there was a counter protest, but since there wasn't, it was a moot point. So she lost her job because this university doesn't like reality. They don't like it when people who are deeply religious have to confront reality, and they don't like it when their professors know how to do basic logic. Like, how can I excuse you to go to a protest that doesn't exist? So, I don't know. Oklahoma Oklahoma University is really making themselves look to be like a top-notch university. Who wouldn't want to go there? There have been controversy over issues of gender identity at other universities in conservative states. Melissa McCool, a professor at Texas A&M, was fired in September after a student complained about McCool's discussion of the topic. Again, nobody is forcing you to agree with the professor in college. That's high school level shit. So, just because you don't agree with the professor doesn't mean you should get him fired. Not how any of this works. Now, if she prevented you from expressing your disagreement, then you might have an issue. But what? In November, the Texas A&M Board of Regents barred faculty from discussing race or gender ideology in the 12 universities it oversees. Okay, one problem. It's pertinent. It's very pertinent to the world right now. Both of them. Plus, what exactly does that mean? You cannot discuss race or gender ideology. So none of the campuses can discuss racism at all. Nobody can discuss that trans people exist. What about sex education? What about pre-med courses? Like advanced biology. What about the fact that you're teaching, history? And you're going to have to ignore both of these topics? How can you get a good education if you have to ignore large swaths of U.S. history or even world history just because some people are too sensitive to discuss certain topics? Which makes me wonder, why are you on the Board of Regents? Why do you care so much about secondary education if you're going to destroy? Oh, that's it. They want to destroy secondary education, so everybody is so dumb that they'll just believe whatever religious bullshit you throw at them because they will lack the critical thinking skills to do anything else. Now I got it. Anyway, that is the end of that article. Alright, so moving on to the next one. And this is a fun one. Well, the subject matter isn't fun, but how it came to be is a fun one. CECOT story pulled by Barry Weiss gets viewed anyway thanks to Canadian streaming service. Now, I'm sure this article will mention it, but this past Sunday, 60 Minutes was supposed to air a story on CECOT. And it went through the usual vigors of testing to see if it's journalistically accurate, if it's, fit to air. And it kept coming back. Now, Barry Weiss, her only claim to fame as a journalist is op-eds. All she does is opinion pieces. Yet she's going to decide that despite all this vigor to say that yes, this story is fit to air, she decides no, it's not. So she pulls it the last minute. But unfortunately, it was already distributed to Canada. So Canada's Global TV aired it. So now people all around the world and in the U.S., including the U.S., can view what Barry Weiss found so scary. And this is why putting someone in charge of a media company who is beholden to a criminal president, and why capitulation is a bad thing. They're capitulating, and they're going to make this administration try to look better or something. Now, CBS News has said that it will air at a later date, but thank you, Canada TV. It will not have to, because I did not believe for 1 minute it would. They would try to bury it and hope people forget about it. But anyway, to the article. The 60-minute story on the notorious CECOT prison in El Salvador that was pulled at the last minute by CBS News editor-in-chief Barry Weiss is being viewed anyway. Inside CECOT appeared on a Canadian streaming platform owned by Global TV. Viewers quickly shared clips and summaries of it on social media, and several have gone viral. CNN and other outlets report CBS is now getting the clips taken down. Right, because nothing says we have something to hide than taking the clips down. The story was approved Friday, but Weiss changed her mind about it Saturday and removed it from the Sunday broadcast, saying it was not yet ready. Sharon Alfonsi, who reported the story, and others have said the decision was a political one designed to placate the Trump administration, which deported 252 Venezuelan immigrants to the prison last spring. Weiss has said that for one thing, it needed responses from administration officials, although they had previously declined to participate. Exactly. If they're going to decline to participate and you're going to say, oh, well, we can't air it because they didn't participate, I mean, that's quite the catch-22 for a journalist. If they don't want to participate, are you seriously saying that they can decide that if we don't participate, we can kill a story? I'm sorry, that's not, I can't see anything wrong with that. I mean, having an administration kill a story simply by not participating, not playing ball, whatever you want to say. Yeah, can't possibly see a problem with that. It appears that the Friday version of 60 Minutes with Inside CECOT was sent to Global TV, as networks sometimes deliver programs to affiliates in advance. CNN notes, CBS sent the revised version to Global TV Saturday, and it aired Sunday night, but the earlier version was still available on Global TV's app for a few hours. That was the best thing that could have happened, a CBS source told CNN. Exactly. I mean, this also shows that Barry Weiss doesn't know what the fuck she's doing, because even if this truly was not fit to air, why would you allow it and then be like, you know what, I changed my mind? Seriously, why are you changing your mind? Men who were incarcerated at CECOT describes horrific conditions in the 60 Minutes piece. They were sent there because of alleged connections to a Venezuelan gang, although most had no such ties and without due process. They were released in a prisoner swap in July. Again, this is known information. None of this is anything new. So basically, just like any other censorship, Barry Weiss actually made more people interested in this than who otherwise would have paid attention if she just let it air. Because again, this isn't telling us anything new. The torture was never-ending, interminable, detainee Luis Munoz Pinto told Alfonsi, according to CNN. There was blood everywhere, screams, people crying, people who couldn't take it and were urinating or vomiting on themselves. Ugh. The CECOT director told the men welcome to hell when they arrived and said they would never be released. Munoz Pinto added, according to NBC News. Gay makeup artist Andre Hernandez Romero, who had sought asylum in the U.S. due to homophobic persecution in Venezuela, was among those deported to CECOT. It's not clear if he was featured in Alfonsi's story or any of the clips shared earlier. He had said the detainees were frequently beaten with nightsticks and shot with rubber projectiles. Inside CECOT included a clip of Donald Trump praising Salvadoran prisons as great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games, NBC reports. That was from his April White House meeting with El Salvador President Nayib Bukele. The story also showed Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem's visit to CECOT in March, in which he called the detainees terrorists. Again, none of this is new information. Literally none of this is new. Seriously, all you did was get the people who weren't paying attention to the information before more interested. That is literally all she did, because that's what censorship does. Makes people more interested in knowing what it's so bad that this was censored. There has been much criticism of Weiss's decision to pull the story, which he has said will run later. Weiss is a conservative lesbian who was once a New York Times commentator and then ran a news and opinion website, The Free Press. Her appointment at CBS has been controversial due to her lack of relevant experience. CBS journalists, among the best in this country, appropriately made an outreach effort to get the government to weigh in on a deeply reported story out of El Salvador, said a statement from Tim Richardson, Journalism and Disinformation Program Director at PEN America, and an organization that advocates for freedom of expression. Pulling it back at the last minute because the government chose not to respond is an insult not only to the integrity of the journalists, but to core principles of independent news gathering. Journalism can't function if those under scrutiny are allowed to avoid accountability simply by refusing to engage. We only hope the story runs without tampering as soon as possible, if not this coming Sunday. We look forward to the segment airing, Philippe Balapion, executive director at Human Rights Watch, told CNN. The evidence is clear regardless of what airs on 60 Minutes. The Trump administration disappeared these Venezuelan men to a mega prison in El Salvador where they were systemically tortured. Okay, that is the end of that article. So, let's see what's happening in Burkina Faso. Okay. Burkina Faso issues first sentence for homosexuality and related practices. Oh, goody. Let's see what happens here. Burkina Faso has issued its first known conviction for homosexuality since banning same-sex sexual relations earlier this year. An individual identified as KM was charged with sentenced to editing advocate with sentenced to 24 months imprisonment, a fine of 2 million CFA francs, approximately $3,581, and ordered expelled from the country following completion of the sentence. The African Human Rights Coalition has confirmed. The official charges were homosexuality and related practices. What does that even mean? Related practices. AHRC expresses grave concern over this conviction, particularly given the sweeping and vague language of the new law, its application against a vulnerable foreign national, and the penal severity, including post-sentence expulsion, the organization said in a statement. This represents the first known enforcement of the 2025 criminalization statute and marks a significant escalation in the legal persecution of LGBTQI+ people in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso's military junta voted in September to ban consensual same-sex sexual relations, with the bill earning the support of 71 unelected members of the junta parliament, as well as President Ibrahim Traore, a former army captain who seized power after 2 coups in 2022. The law levies punishment of up to 5 years in prison and significant fines. While LGBTQ plus identities are not widely accepted in the nation, they were not previously outlawed. The ban comes as part of the junta's overhaul of marriage laws after usurping power from the country's former military ruler, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. Human Rights Watch has previously said the 2022 military coup in Burkina Faso was responsible for serious abuses, further degrading the country's human rights and humanitarian situation. Over 6 countries have laws making same-sex sexual relations illegal. Most of them are in Africa, with the majority inheriting their laws from European colonization. Those colonial laws remain in place even after the countries that implemented them overturned them, though they are not always actively enforced. Punishments range from fines and imprisonment to the death penalty. A lot of those people who claim to that they are going after homosexuality because that's a Western ideology are the same people who are using the colonial laws. It's like, why are you using colonial laws if you want to prove that you want to stick it to the colonialists? I'm sorry, what sense does that make? While many countries have decriminalized same-sex relationships in recent years, others have instead enacted legislation where there previously was none criminalizing them. Uganda lawmakers passed what they have dubbed one of the world's harshest anti-LGBTQ+ laws in 2023, and Ghana advanced a draconian LGBTQ+ criminalization bill in spite of warnings from other nations and world financial institutions. So that is the end of that article. And I think I've covered everything I wanted to do. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.